Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in and checking out my latest video. Now, today's video is going to be talking about the 2016 Boxing Awards. In my opinion, I'm going to give you guys a winner of each category and also a runner-up as well. Hope you guys enjoy the video. So let's start off with the Trainer of the Year, in my opinion. So this year, my Trainer of the Year is going to be Abel Sanchez, due to some upsets of fighters that he trained happened to achieve. So when I look at Abel Sanchez's guys, you look at Murat Gassiev, he had an upset victory over Denis Lebedev. Denis Shavkov defeating Jamal Herring was another upset. And Andy Ruiz Jr., I felt, beat Joseph Parker, but the judges got that fight wrong. And then you also look at Gennady Golovkin, still undefeated as a fighter. So I believe Abel Sanchez definitely deserves Trainer of the Year, in my opinion. Then my runner-up for Trainer of the Year would be Shane McGuigan. He's a trainer of Carl Frampton, George Groves, David Haye, Josh Taylor. There's a lot of very good fighters that he trains. And when I look at Shane McGuigan as a trainer, this is a guy who really didn't get a lot of credit as a trainer up until this year. But I've always thought very highly of him in terms of his mitt work, in terms of outstanding instructions in the corners that his fighters are fighting. When I look at him as a trainer, this is a guy who is a young guy, and he's using some newer approaches to the sport of boxing, and I really think that's helping his fighters develop and be the best that they can possibly be. So Shane McGuigan, much respect to him. Definitely got to watch out for in 2017. One of the very best trainers in the sport of boxing, in my opinion. Has done outstanding work this year. I commend him on a great year, him and Carl Frampton, as well as George Groves as well. Now, when I look at the next award in this category, guys, let's talk about the round of the year. Now, in my opinion, the round of the year was round 5 between Dillian Whyte versus Derek Chisora. In my opinion, you look at that fight, you had two heavyweights going at it. You had Derek Chisora hurting Dillian Whyte at one point in that fight, and Dillian Whyte ends up responding instead of going into survival mode, throwing down. Absolute classic round, in my opinion, round of the year. Now, when you look at fight of the year, in my opinion, is Francisco Vargas versus Orlando Salido. Two outstanding warriors going back and forth. The fight was exactly what I was expecting. I expected a crazy war, and it exceeded my expectations, so I have to give that the fight of the year, in my opinion. Runner-up would be Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter. I would say I'm a little biased because I was at that fight. Outstanding fight. You had Keith Thurman fighting off the relentless pressure of Sean Porter. Really made for a great night of fights. My next award, guys, that I want to give out would be the Prospect of the Year. Now, the Prospect of the Year is going to be a guy a lot of you guys aren't familiar with, which would be Custio Clayton, fighting out of Montreal, originally from Nova Scotia in Canada. Custio Clayton, when I look at him as a fighter, this is a guy in 2012 was robbed of an Olympic medal due to corrupt judging. And when I look at the year he's had in 2016, he's beaten multiple veterans. He's a guy who has a vicious right hand. He does very good body work, high ring IQ. He's patient, and he is a fighter to look out for. Like I said, he's fighting good opposition at this point of his career, and he's only going to be moving up in competition. And the thing I like about him is he has a good punch, but he sets up his shots properly. He's got good hand speed. He has a lot of very good things he does well. And like I said, 2012, this guy was a fighter who should have won a medal. So it goes to show you the type of pedigree of a fighter he has. Now, when I look at my runner-up for this award, it would be a fighter trained under Shane McGuigan, which would be Josh Taylor. Now, Josh Taylor is a guy, if you guys aren't familiar with him, lethal body punching. He's got excellent hand speed, punch variety. He uses some feints. He's very lengthy. He's got long arms. He's going to be a fighter that it's going to be extremely hard to get matchups for in 2017. And this guy, unreal skills, to be honest with you. You guys are going to see him, I believe, all over the news in 2017. And a lot of diehard boxing fans are going to become a fan of his work. And really, he's just an outstanding fighter, I believe, in the future. Now, when I look at the promoter of the year, in my opinion, would have to go to Eddie Hearn. When I look at Eddie Hearn, he's a guy, when you watch his interviews, he's a very good marketer of his cards. He understands about putting local fighters on local bills, which I think a lot of boxing promoters are kind of getting wrong. And his events are gaining notoriety throughout the world. I mean, this is not just popular fights over in the UK. You look at some of the fight cards that he's put on this year. You got Kell Brook versus Gennady Golovkin. He was involved with Carl Frampton, Scott Quigg, Tony Bellew. He's made him into a big star now. Eddie Hearn has just put on tremendous shows throughout the year. In my opinion, the best promoter. He's got a very good stable of fighters behind him. Extremely good press conferences. He just really understands the sport of boxing, and in my opinion, I gotta thank him a lot because I think he's doing a great representation for the sport of boxing, and I love his cards. Personally, I always tune in, and very intelligent guy, whether you like him or not. In my opinion, he's great for the sport of boxing. Now, when you look at knockout of the year, it would have to be Marek Gassiev over Jordan Schimmel. That was an outstanding knockout. When I look at that fight, you see Gassiev set him up for a left hook and shows that vicious power. If you watch a Denis Lebedev fight, you would have saw that as well. Gassiev is somebody to watch out in the cruiserweight division. Now, my runner-up for knockout of the year would be Canelo Alvarez versus Amir Khan. I'm not going to give it to him because I like Marek Gassiev's knockout more, and it was in his proper weight class, unlike Canelo fighting a very small man and Amir Khan. Nonetheless, a great knockout. The boxing story of the year, in my opinion, is the rise of Joe Smith Jr. beating Fonfora, and then, of course, the common man knocked Bernard Hopkins out of the ring and sent him into the retirement home. That was an outstanding performance by Joe Smith Jr., taking nothing away, of course, from Bernard Hopkins, absolute legend. One of the very best fighters of my generation that I've ever seen. Outstanding, and we're not going to find another like him, to be honest, in Bernard Hopkins. But Joe Smith Jr., coming from a construction worker to beating top-level opposition and doing so violently, he's going to become a household name, I believe, and his story is very much like a Rocky story when you look at it. So outstanding work by him. Now, when I look at the division that I was most interested this year, it would be the cruiserweight division. That division's got guys like Denis Lebedev, Marek Gassiev, Glowacki, Usyk. We also have Bebut Shumenev. There's quite a few fighters, Marco Huck. There's lots of guys in that division. It's an extremely competitive division, which is why that's my favorite division of the year in terms of checking matchups and being intrigued for fights. Lots of good matchups in that division. In the future, Marek Gassiev versus Glowacki would be a fun fight. Then you could have Usyk versus Marek Gassiev. Then you could have Tony Bellew versus Usyk. There's a lot of interesting fights that I'd like to see in 2017. The cruiserweight division, highly competitive division. One of my personal favorites in the sport to watch. Yeah, it's going to be a great division in 2017 to check out. Now, my performance of the year would be Alexander Usyk versus Glowacki. Now, in this fight, Usyk is a guy with an extensive amateur background. He comes into this matchup against Glowacki and defeats him soundly using outstanding footwork, angles, punch variety, counter punching, accurate punching. Usyk is a fighter who does pretty much everything. Extremely impressed with him as a fighter. Want to see what he's going to do in 2017. So Alexander Usyk had the performance of the year, in my opinion, taking on a game Glowacki and putting on a performance like he did. My runner-up for that award would be Vasily Lomachenko. Lomachenko against Nicholas Walters outclassed him. He made Nicholas Walters look like a joke, man. It was unreal. He made Nicholas Walters quit. Lomachenko, his footwork, angles, his boxing IQ just out of this world. His amateur pedigree really shows. His father did a great job training him. And he made Nicholas Walters look like a D fighter. It was crazy to see. So those are definitely some of the words I thought, in my opinion. I have to say, finally, last but not least, my fighter of the year would be Carl Frampton. Now, Carl Frampton is a guy who I'm personally a very huge fan of. I love his skill set. I like really watching his fights because he's entertaining, but yet very technical. And when I look at Frampton's year, this is a guy who fought Scott Quigg. A lot of people said this is a 50-50 matchup. A lot of people even edged closer to fight to Scott Quigg. After that, they had that show, the Countdown Show. I forget what they call it at the time. they had the countdown show, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Quigg is training harder from what I'm seeing on television, and Quigg's more hungry, and Frampton hasn't looked good recently." A lot of people were leaning towards Scott Quigg as the fight drew closer. Carl Frampton ends up beating Scott Quigg in a decision. So that was a great, great win for him. And then what does he do to top that? He goes over to America and beats Leo Santa Cruz, a guy who throws countless amount of punches. And people say Carl Frampton cannot compete with those type of fighters who have a high activity level because sometimes it slows in the second half of a fight. And Frampton goes over and handles Leo Santa Cruz, a man much bigger than him. He was a big underdog in that fight. A lot of people counted him out. So Carl Frampton, much respect to you, sir. You really deserve the Fighter of the Year, in my opinion. Um, Outstanding work by Mr. Frampton. I'll be at his fight. The rematch versus Leo Santa Cruz. I cannot wait to watch it. And Carl Frampton really deserves it. Shane McGuigan did a great job with him. Um, Great work by those two gentlemen. Can't wait to see what's next in 2017. And Frampton's a guy who's been overlooked by many for a lot of years, so I'm very, very happy with him the year he had in 2016, showing he is an elite fighter. He always was, but people are finally taking notice. Now, my runner-up for that award would be Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. I really liked his fight against Carlos Cuatros. Moves up a weight class without even taking a tune-up fight. That guy's a straight badass. And very, very close fight. I thought Roman won that fight, though. But moving up and taking on a killer like that with a record like Roman has just shows why a lot of people are starting to watch the lighter weight classes. And Roman Gonzalez, in my opinion, deserves his pound for pound #1 ranking. I thought that was a very ballsy move by him, going up and taking on Carlos Cuatros. Outstanding fight. So Roman Gonzalez, my runner-up for Fighter of the Year. Let me know what you guys think of 2016 as a whole of boxing. My opinion, guys, a lot of people have a lot of negative comments about boxing in 2016. Yes, there were some issues. I thought we had the emergence of the lower weight classes. I thought that the cruiserweight division was good. We're building some good heavyweight talent. So I'm very optimistic for the future of boxing in 2017, in my opinion. Tons of great fights out there in 2017. And 2016 really finished strong. We had a lot of great fights at the end of the year. So hopefully we spread those fights out a little more next year. Not complaining because, I mean, great to end the year like that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'm going to be doing a video coming up about some guys to look out for in 2017. Hope you guys have a great new year as well. And everybody who comments on the channel, likes the videos, shares the videos. Appreciate all you guys. I see a lot of the same people commenting underneath. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these videos. It means a lot to me. Thank you very much, guys, and all the best to everyone in 2017. Thank you very kindly.